Palantir stock is the main subject and only subject of today's video. Another massive day for Palantir here today. It's been up anywhere from 5 to 6% here today, and all the indexes, folks, are Red Dead Redemption out there. So Palantir's just playing its own game at this point in time. I want to read through this article with you guys and react to this one rather than a video here today in this one, okay? Palantir fortunes will be made. I read through this last night and I thought I want to share this with everybody. This inputs on it, react to it, kind of give my opinions and perspectives on this across the board, because I think it is important to kind of go through something like this. I love to read articles on stocks I own, bullish and bearish perspectives. I love to read that stuff. Sometimes it just gives you a way of looking at it that maybe you didn't see, right? And so I love going through this. Seeking Alpha always has the most articles by far of like bullish and bearish perspectives on stocks, by way more than any other service I found out there over time. I did a sponsorship with them like 2 months ago. So what I'll do is they gave me a link back when I did that sponsorship with them a couple months ago. That was basically for a free 14-day trial. I'll put that as a pinned comment just in case you're interested in Seeking Alpha and reading articles about Palantir or other stocks you might own or whatever. I'll put that as pinned comment. Like I said, it's for a free 14-day trial if you want to try it out and see if you like the platform and whatnot, okay? So let's get into this. I appreciate everybody joining me. As always, 27,200 plus subscribers now on the channel. Appreciate every single person that subscribed to the channel. Palantir fortunes will be made. Palantir's new AI platform could be a game changer for the business. There are also reasons to believe that Palantir stock could retain its momentum in the foreseeable future. At the same time, Palantir has everything going for it to continue to scale its business and create additional shareholder value along the way. Palantir has all the chances to retain its momentum and extend the rally of the stock as a company is about to release its new AI platform that could help scale the business and create additional shareholder value along the way. Add to this the fact that major bearish arguments against investing in Palantir have become less relevant since the business is now profitable, while stock-based compensation decrease with each year, and it becomes obvious that there's nothing not to like about the company at this stage. Ooh, okay. Let me give my opinion. Like, what do I think about the bear case in regards to Palantir? I will say this. The bearish argument for Palantir has been diminished greatly now. And I mean greatly. The bearish case was always this company's never been profitable. They're never going to be profitable. Well, that's changed, okay? The other main bear case around this one was obviously stock-based compensation. Look at how much stock-based compensation. Look at the SBC. Look at the SBC. And it was really bad a few years ago, right? And you're just seeing that come down, and it's less and less and less of an issue now at this point in time. And so those were the two main things. Let's not confuse us that bears were talking about, right? Alex Karp, you know, in terms of him, he's never really been seen as a main bearish perspective out there. You know, some people really like Alex Karp, some people don't, but he's never really been like from the bearish side. Like, oh, Alex Karp's because he's a founder of the business. He's built this thing into what it is, so you can't really say that's a bear point. Other than that, sales culture at Palantir hasn't really been there. They're trying to obviously build the sales culture. They've always been standoffish to sales folks, so that was like a minor kind of bearish argument, but Palantir just came in with a nearly $20 million beat last quarter, right? So even that's starting to maybe fade a little bit. Considering all this, I continue to hold a long position in Palantir and believe that the company's growth story is far from over, despite all the challenges the business is currently facing. Palantir's story is far from over. Earlier this month, Palantir unveiled its Q1 earnings report, which showed that the company's growth story is far from over. Despite the macroeconomic challenges, the company managed to increase its customer count by 41% year over year. It's incredible. And closed 64 deals that were worth at least $1 million each. That's incredible. This has helped to improve the overall sales at Palantir's revenue to $525 million during the quarter. That was up almost 18%, and that was, it beat estimates by almost $20 million. At the same time, Q1 also became the second profitable quarter in a row, and the management team expects this trend to continue for the rest of the year. There are several reasons why Palantir managed to report great results, and why it's likely that it'll be able to retain its momentum and continue to create additional shareholder value along the way. First of all, the company has started to scale its cloud-based software deployment solution, Apollo, which itself became a standalone product only last year by closing its first $1 million deal for it in Q1. That's intriguing because Foundry Gotham, Foundry Gotham, Foundry Gotham, right? That's what everybody talks about in regards to Palantir, because those are the businesses putting up, big numbers. And Apollo just gets obviously forgotten. And so it is exciting if there can be more momentum with Apollo. No doubt about that, right? No doubt. With a total addressable market of over $1 trillion by the end of the decade, Palantir has everything going for it to capture some portion of the ever-growing cloud market thanks to the help of Apollo in the following years. Big question is, how much can they scale that product, right? Like, what are we talking about for Apollo? Is that $1 billion product someday? Is it a $100 million product someday? Because you're talking about that can throw off numbers in a massive, massive way, right? Is it a $5 billion product someday? Like, that's a big question. At the same time, in addition to the growing commercial business that generates $236 million in revenue in Q1, which is an increase of 15% year over year, Palantir is also likely to continue to receive new awards from various federal agencies due to the uniqueness of its software solutions. In Q1 alone, Palantir's government revenue increased by 20% year over year to $289 million. And thanks to the successful performance of its solutions on the battlefield, there are reasons to believe that the company's platforms for the defense sector would retain in high demand in the foreseeable future. No doubt about that. That's what I call in the bag. In my other articles on Palantir, I've already noted how the company was spying on, these folks. I don't want to use certain words. You might get demonetized or something like that nowadays, right? On the eve of the invasion in the beginning of 2022, and how there was an indication that the business's software is actively and successfully used on the battlefield. Earlier this year, Palantir CEO Alex Karp admitted that the company's software is indeed used for targeting by these folks, while the company's CTO in the latest conference call spoke publicly about this in a recent visit, right? And so we all know that, right? We all know, if you're caught up on the Palantir story, right? Like, what is the one thing I think you should know about Palantir, okay? The one thing is the military loves Palantir, okay? This helps them make much better decisions than not having Palantir on their side, okay? No doubt about that. And government agencies in general love Palantir because it helps them make better decisions. And a lot of these problems are very complex, very confusing, and you have to take a lot of real-time data into making decisions many times, right? So that is something that I think if you don't know that about Palantir, you got to at least know that, okay? In his latest letter to shareholders, Alex Karp stated that Palantir is about to unveil its new artificial intelligence platform to select customers this month, which would enable enterprises to leverage the power of large language models in their own data sets. The letter also indicated that there's organic interest in the new product, and the company is currently mobilizing its sales team to extend the potential reach of the new platform in the future. If successful, Palantir's new AI platform could be a game changer for the overall business, as the company could be ahead of others in AI development, and thanks to the fact that its solutions are already tested in the real battlefield. Therefore, by having negotiations and pricing power due to the uniqueness and effectiveness of its software solutions, Palantir has everything going for it to continue to scale its business and create additional shareholder value at the same time for years to come. Add to this fact that Palantir's management expects the business to remain profitable for the rest of the year and grow its sales double-digit rate, and it's become obvious why the company's growth story is far from over, right? And so, in regards to their AI platform, no doubt that has a chance to, it's hard to even put numbers on that business and what that can become over time. But this is a great thing about great companies with great employee forces, right? And what is something I've always told you in regards to Palantir, and something I've really got educated on over time, is Palantir is one of the most amazing companies at attracting the best talent, best workforce you can ever imagine out there. And when you have that sort of management team that's keeps their pedal to the metal, and when you have that sort of employee force, they're going to continue to build great product after great product after great product, right? It's in the culture, man. It's in the culture, and that's exactly what they're doing. With all these growth opportunities, Palantir shares have everything going for them to keep the momentum going. The only question that remains is whether the upside is big enough to justify opening a position at the current levels. After all, my previous DCF model in late February showed that Palantir's fair value of $9.03, which is already below the market price due to the latest rally. To figure this out, I've updated my model below to better reflect Palantir's performance in Q1 and the company's potential improvement in the overall financials in the future. The top line growth rate expectations are mostly in line with the street and management expectations for the next couple of years, after which the annual revenue growth is capped at 25%, considering that before 2022, Palantir's management was expecting to grow the business at least 30% annually. Yes. Through 2025, it makes sense to expect the growth of 25% in the future due to potential improvements in the macroeconomic environment, thanks to the beginning of disinflationary process. The expectations for earnings have been slightly improved as well, since the latest earnings report showed Palantir can extend expectations thanks to low cost and high margin nature of the business. All of their assumptions of the model mostly remain the same as before, okay? Can we see in depth here? Projections. So he has a company doing just over $5 billion of revenue, it looks like, in 2027, right? EBIT of $1.4 billion. Looks like he has EBIT without the A at the end of it of $1.1 billion here, right? So, and then present value of free cash flow, $845 million. Unlevered free cash flow here of about $1.3 billion for Palantir. So, I mean, I wouldn't call those necessarily the most bullish numbers out there. I also wouldn't call them the most bearish numbers, okay? I think those are very fair, very, very fair. The updated model shows Palantir's enterprise value to be $17.8 billion, while its fair value is $9.23, above the previous estimates, but below the current market price, right? Interesting. Even though at first it might seem like Palantir is now overvalued after the latest rally, I remain bullish about the company in the long run and believe there are several other things need to be considered in addition to valuation argument. First of all, even in the current environment, Palantir is able to grow at an aggressive rate if the macroeconomic environment improves next year. Then the company would have an opportunity to improve its top-line growth even more. In such a scenario, this would lead to upward revision of the revenue assumptions and a subsequent improvement in fair value calculations. At the same time, if the disinflationary process accelerates and the Fed decides to cut rates next year, the cost of capital for Palantir would also decrease and lead to a greater fair value as well. That is true. On top of that, Palantir remains a growth stock. That's why I always say it's very important, because a lot of, in terms of what the Fed has the interest rate out, because the way a lot of people value stocks on these DCF models, that's why a lot of people like to value stocks, right? And at the end of the day, they're going to divide it by whatever the Fed funds rate is. So sometimes they're dividing that number by 5, sometimes you're dividing it by 1, depending upon the situation. And that can drastically change what you're willing to pay for a stock, right? Risk to consider. Considering the bullish argument was presented above, the only major risk for Palantir's growth story is a lasting unfavorable macroeconomic environment that has already destroyed the shareholder value last year and could suppress growth in the following quarters. If that's the case, then fundamentals would outweigh various growth opportunities and kill the stock's momentum that would result in depreciation in the short to near term. Other than that, there are no major risks that could make it harder for Palantir to achieve its goals. The company is already profitable and expected to remain so in the current environment. While year-over-year decreases in stock-based compensation expenses each year indicate that the biggest bearish argument against investing in Palantir has become irrelevant with each passing quarter. Okay. I wouldn't say that's the only, possibility of a bearish scenario is the macroeconomic landscape being in a weak place. Obviously, that would be a bad thing, right? If the macroeconomic landscape's in a bad place. But there's always the risk that maybe Palantir is just not going to be good enough at selling their product, right? And that's a risk we do have to consider as shareholders. They can have the most amazing product, but if they don't have the sales team to really get word out, right, and get customers, and especially commercial customers, because let's be honest, if we're really going to massively grow this business, we need commercial customers. If they don't have the right sales team and sales approach, then you can get passed up for inferior products because the other ones are just better at selling, okay? And so I think that's a risk factor we do have to consider. Remember, Alex Karp had for the longest time a very standoffish approach when it came to salespeople. And so this is a company that's just trying to build a sales culture. This is no CRM. This is no Salesforce, right? And so that is something I think we all have to consider in regards to Palantir. And they're going to have to build a great sales force for this company to really do the sorts of numbers we want this company to do $5 billion of revenue a year, to do $10 billion of revenue a year. You're going to need, I can tell you, a great sales team to make that possible. Palantir's successful performance in Q1, along with the expected further scaling of its business at an aggressive rate in the following years, indicates that the company's growth story is far from over. If the macroeconomic environment improves in the following quarters, then there's a case to be made that Palantir shares would be able to appreciate even more as the uniqueness and effectiveness of the company's solutions in the enterprise software market would continue to give it its edge and outweigh the risk. Okay, so he definitely brings some good points there in my opinion, right, in regards to good old Palantir. And what I would love to take a look at here before I let you guys go is kind of what analysts have rolling through for Palantir, right? So analysts have them doing 21 cents of EPS this year, right? As far as 2024 numbers, analysts have them doing 26 cents, so not a great increase there, which would put the company at about a 46 forward PE based upon 2024 numbers, right? Is that high? Is that high? If you're just going against the market, sure, because the market trades at 15 to 20 range, right? But for a company that's at infant stage of profitability, that has gross margins of 80+% or somewhere around there roughly, I don't feel like that's high. Because what I believe is going to play out over this next 5 years is Palantir's profitability is going to increase in a massive, massive way. And what you think you're paying expensive price for a stock is actually going to be very, very cheap when you see the sorts of net income and EPS this company's going to be throwing off in future years. So that's my opinion and perspective on this as always. I appreciate everybody joining me. Obviously, stock has so much going for it short term with obviously possibility S&P 500 inclusion at the end of this year, beginning of 2024. Everybody getting excited about their AI product obviously is going to be massive for this company in the short term. And then obviously over the long term, Foundry, Gotham, Apollo, the new AI product platform, everything. I mean, those are just absolutely massive, massive things. And so, yeah, I definitely obviously remain bullish and very, very bullish, and not a stock I want to sell anytime soon. So appreciate everybody joining me as always. Once again, the pinned comment down there will be to a free 14-day trial if you want to utilize that for Seeking Alpha and you want to try it out and read a bunch of Palantir articles or other articles that are written on other stocks and whatnot. So that'll be pinned comment down there. Much love as always, and have a great day.